I think there's going to be massive change here. I don't know what that means.
I'm not as convinced as you are. I honestly, I was thinking about that as well over the weekend, Noodles. And sometimes, like, how many times have we come in year after year after year and said, well, clearly there's got to be change, and they do nothing. I don't know. I really don't. Like, I thought it was different that Shanahan wasn't a part of the process today.
Yeah.
In past years, he sat up there with Dubas. That did not happen. That says one of a few different things.
Well, exactly. I don't think Masai spoke the year that Dwayne Casey got fired.
Exactly. So he's either processing that, he's waiting to finish, crossing T's, dotting I's with ownership. Is he separating himself from all this? I mean, possibly. I don't think that's a good look if that's the case.
I think you have to have answers for the board. You've got to have a plan moving forward so they can sign off on it. You've got decisions to make. Now, Kyle Dubas has decisions to make personally because he's an unrestricted free agent. Even if Shanahan dangles a contract in front of him, he might decide, I might look for somewhere else, or I might look at a different scenario. I thought the most interesting out of all the interviews today was Kyle Dubas's, because a couple things stood out for me. He didn't commit to roll back to the core four or whatever. He cited the Florida Panthers making massive change. Mm-hmm. And he also said, I need to take a look at my situation for myself and my family. This has been very hard.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's a negotiating ploy or not. I'm sure it's smart business. But I'm sure it's been very hard on him as a manager
Absolutely.
as well. So that's out of all the, and we all know, exit meetings and exit interviews, it's all lip service. But I got those two nuggets today out of Kyle.
I agree. Well, let's play the clip about, you referenced Florida and what they've done and what he's possibly willing to do if he does stay on as the GM.
I would consider anything with our group here that would allow us a better chance to win the Stanley Cup. So that I would take nothing off the table at all. And I think everything would have to be considered with regards to anything to do with the Leafs.
So that is different than...
We like our players. We're not changing them.
Right. And I'm staking my career on these guys getting it done.
It's just been a different message in his other pressers. Like, hey, we were close. We didn't like... This one was... It seemed a little bit more raw, like we just talked about, emotion. But it also... Like, he didn't commit to like, hey... I'm rolling back, or we feel comfortable. We feel we're right there.
Well, he can't commit to rolling anything. But he said he doesn't even know.
He's not the manager.
Well, that's the whole thing.
As of July 1st.
Like, ultimately, Shanahan is the one that has to speak here, right? And Shanahan he holds the hammer on everything that happens in this organization. Nothing happens without it going through Brendan Shanahan.
Correct.
Now, what makes this unique and this team unique is their ownership setup is. The owners are kind of lurking in the background. They're in the shadows. No one knows what they want, how they operate. We don't have a feeling for that.
It's a board, right?
You got Bell, Rogers, Tannenbaum. Like, it's difficult. It's impossible to get a read on that.
Right.
No one has a read on ownership. Like, there's no playbook here where you can say, well, clearly they're going to step in and say this is not good enough or that is good enough. So that makes it difficult to try to project what's going to happen because we don't know where ownership comes into play. Right. Now, when it comes to Shanahan, I think he is in a very interesting position because he is the constant, over 9 years. He was the guy here first.
Yeah.
Like, this was his plan. There have been multiple GMs, multiple coaches, multiple players. He's the guy who's been at the top the whole time, and everything goes through him. And I think what he needs to come to terms with and what he needs to make a decision on is whether or not he wants to play it safe or if he wants to get a little bit crazy. Because playing it safe, for me, is understandable.
With regards to what?
Yeah.
Dubas, Keefe, core four players. And I would even, everyone's saying core four. It's really Matthews and or Marner. Like, those guys are above the other two. John Tavares is in a different spot because he's older, no movement clause. I don't think anyone's expecting him to go anywhere. Willie's a year from possibly leaving if he wants to. And Willie's a very good player. But the two guys on the marquee are Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner.
Superstars.
Yeah. Those are the guys that Shanahan, I think, and company look at and say, those are our two guys.
Yep.
Like, those are our guys, and then everything else filters through. And I think Shanahan, understandably, has been playing it safe. But I don't think he can look at this or anyone else within the organization and truly believe these guys can get it done now. Like, truly believe this whole group can win a Stanley Cup. You can still hope.
Right.
I think they believed it 3 or 4 years ago. Undoubtedly, they believed it.
Sure.
I don't think you can believe it now. You can hope. So what came with safety? A revitalized fan base, jersey sales, superstars fans can attach themselves to, especially young kids. Very important.
Yep.
Like Matthews and Marner, every kid in the city loves those two guys. Tons of wins in the playoffs every single year. Very compelling. Safety is very compelling. It's very easy to sell to a board because you're going to make money.
Right.
Now, they're probably going to make money anyway because of the nature of this market and who they are.
Right.
But safe has been working for the most part. But safe's not going to get you a Stanley Cup. So is he willing to get uncomfortable? Because you might get it wrong. You might fire the wrong guy. You might trade the wrong guy, and then you take steps back.
Or you might do the Kachuk transaction. It might not work.
It might not work. And that's the truth.
You might end up with the Huberto part.
That's the point. Exactly. Right? Where safe, guess what? They finish with 105 points. They go back to the dance. Like, I think he can walk into the board, Shanahan, and say, bringing these guys back. We're going to sign this guy, sign that guy, and we're going back to the playoffs. Check. Safe. Okay. Go ahead. But if you go in there and say, this guy's gone, that guy's gone, this guy's on the table, I'm rolling the dice.
Right.
But he needs to determine if Shanahan is going to remain the guy here, the king of the county.
Well,
is it worth it to gamble to win a Stanley Cup? Because safe through 7 years has proven you're not going to win a Stanley Cup.
It hasn't got you.
Then
there,
you just answered your own question.
But dude, he's got to go to the owners. Maybe the owners are sitting there saying, we're making good money.
Yeah.
We like those guys. My kid likes those guys. But this and that. You never know what the owners are going to say.
Again, if all the things were said correctly today, your hand could be forced by one player, 34.